welcome to this latest in the a series of Reinvigorating Direct Payments webinars with TLAP and the Department of Health and Social Care. We're just waiting for people to come in. Please do just bear with us. Really pleased to have Isaac Samuels, Jackie Darlington from the National Co-Production Advisory Group, and we've got Antonia from Greenwich Council, who'll be talking about her work today in the direct payments support service there in Greenwich. We'll just wait for people to join. Lots of you now joining, and in a second we'll get going. Let's have the first slide if that's okay. We'll just move to the slides. Jojo, thank you very much. So it's great to see you again. Well, can't see you. Have you all join us today for this latest webinar, Unlocking the Power of Direct Payments for the Global Majority. And we do have some real expertise with us today with Isaac, Jackie and Antonia. This series of webinars was developed as part of the work that we do at Think Local Act Personal. So as you can see there, we're a partnership of people and organisations, and our reason to be really is to see the personalisation agenda really realised that all those things in the Care Act around choice and control realised, so that more people can have lived life their way. That's what we're about at TLAP and DHS. SC funders to do that, and we work with the sector to do the things, the kinds of support that you ask for, and we do that. Let's have the next slide, please. Thank you. We do that co-productively. We do that in full co-production with the National Co-Production Advisory Group, and we have Isaac and Jackie here from the Co-Production Advisory Group, putting people's lived experience right at the heart of the work that we do. There you are. You can see a list of everyone who's going to be speaking today. And this series came about as a result of work that we've been doing we started that work with a network of direct payment support services down in the southwest, talking about how practitioners really do struggle with remembering everything they need to remember around direct payments, and feeling confident to promote direct payments. So we created a series of web resources, learning resources, and in launching those, you kind of told us yes, but a whole series of yes buts. It's really difficult, or we struggle with these sorts of issues. And today we've got a fantastic webinar for you, talking about unlocking the power of direct payments for global majority individuals, a real buzz subject. I'm going to pass over to Isaac and Jackie. If you'd like to introduce yourselves and lead us forward into this webinar.
Brilliant. So we'll all do a round of introduction. So I'm Isaac. I'm not only someone that's passionate about direct payments, I'm someone that understands that we do need to unlock them for certain people, particularly people from the global majority or racialized individuals. I've self-directed my own support for a long time because traditional support didn't really work for me, but we'll go into that throughout the session. Jackie, can I get you to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jackie Darlington, and like Isaac, I'm doing my own self-directing of the support. I started this basically with my son many years ago, in fact, too far back. But again, we'll talk more about this later on.
Antonia, can I get you to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, everybody. My name is Antonia Fife, and I am a team leader at the Royal Borough of Greenwich Council, with the self-directed support team. And the side that I work on is particularly with the advice and recruitment of direct payments and individual service funds.
Thank you. So we're now just going to go through some kind of conversation guide before we go into the main session. So can I get Joe to put the slide up for me? Got a couple of slides. Next slide, please. So we encourage people to think about this session as a time and space that we might want to think about how do we support the global majority to have a better access to direct payments? What can you do to promote direct payments? If you are someone thinking about direct payment for yourself or a loved one, or if you're someone that supports people like myself and Jackie, how can you really do that? So we ask people to be open and curious. We seek to understand one another and really be open to kind of like what people bring. Our experiences might be very different from yours, and we want to center that global majority experience in this space. What's said here stayed here. So we'd really appreciate like kind of we're bringing our lived experience of like really honoring and respecting that, but we really encourage people to take the learning into wherever they are to really make a difference to people like us. We value different expertise. Together, we know a lot more than individually, and you might hear things that are really interesting and supportive of your own work in this space today, but you might also want to contribute something. You could do that in the chat. We're also going to share some resources towards the end of the session. Be aware of power and privilege, particularly when we talk about the experience of racialized or global majority individuals, who often power and privilege play out in those spaces. And when I say that, I mean we don't all have the same experience, and often. We'll talk about this a bit later. When you are someone that comes from a global majority, you might not have people around you that understand your culture, your experience, the need to really center you in that. Next slide, please. So we're inviting people to listen actively, so really connect with what people bring to the space. And we ask people to be mindful of how they contribute. And we're going to apply this to our own. So I often have to like shrink myself in spaces because I talk a lot, and me and Jackie were having a bit of a joke around. I've got a big mouth, Jackie's a bit more quieter. Take accountability for what we say in this space, and remember when we have conversations with global majority people, we need to do that, and we actively call people in to understand the person's experience, and we ask that we challenge or bring a kind of our learning in a way that is not harmful, and we credit this to People Voice Media as well. So lots to take in, and I think it's important to say that when we're talking about global majority or racialized experience, that we do need to have some of these ways of thinking. So why is this important, Martin? So we're
Sorry,
going
I
to
turned
have
myself off audio. Why is this important? Well, direct payments are for everyone, and everybody should have the opportunity to be able to be in control of their care and support. But we know that particular groups have more difficulties, more barriers than others. So addressing those issues is really, really important.
Thanks, Martin. So we're going to go into facilitated conversation between myself and Jackie now, and then we'll bring Antonio in a bit later. But Jackie, can I ask you to come back on screen? So we had a bit of a conversation about direct payments and how we wanted people to unlock the potential of direct payments for people like us. Jackie, tell me a little bit about your life and how you found out about direct payments and some of the opportunities and challenges you've experienced.
Oh, loads of questions there. Right, I'm going to start nearly at the beginning. And I've got a son that's got Down syndrome, autism, and no understandable speech outside the immediate family. And it got to the point when he got to about 14, I'm a single parent as well, that I felt I was being pulled in all directions to do lots for him and not have a life myself. And the stress of caring became too much in a way. I also worked, so trying to work and do all this was just too much. In fact, the social services, my local authority approached me many months before, and I said, no, I'm okay. And then, yeah, I think it was a drip feed thing, sort of, okay, no, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And I actually rang them up and approached them again and got direct payments. That's how it originally started. So direct payments for Joshua, who at that time was 14, now I'm showing my age, was brilliant because it gave me the space, it gave me the opportunity to employ someone to do with Joshua what I was trying to do and work at the same time. Bringing it forward to, was it last year, the year before, I took ill. And when I took ill, it became apparent that I was not going to be able to do what I have always done. And it's very hard because I wouldn't say I'm a proud Black person, but that's what my mum would have said. I'm a proud Black person. And to ask for help is not easy. Asking for help for Joshua was bad enough, but asking for help for me is really hard. And I recently had to do that. And I then got direct payments for myself. But yes, there were lots of questions and lots of things that was asked that you might have felt might have been personal, and you're like thinking, okay, I don't know how much of this I want to say. You know, it's a matter of how are you managing when you're going to the bathroom and getting washed and things like that. And I didn't really want to say very much. How are you managing with cooking? We weren't starving, don't get me wrong, but you know, it was really hard. And that's how I got into direct payments.
Thanks, Jackie. So just wondering about when we think about, and we had this conversation around, there is a lot of, I suppose, sometimes stigma associated with asking for help. And there's a lot of our histories, our culture that might prevent us from seeking help. How can we support people in care and support systems, social workers, direct payment teams to really encourage people like yourself to take the help rather than, I know you were a little bit reluctant at the time that they could most benefit from it, that really proactive, kind of culturally competent help. So what kind of things would you encourage people to do?
I think the point is when you get to the point when you can't do what you normally do. And there is a fear, if you can't do what you normally do, there is a fear that the person you care for, in my eyes, is going to be taken away from me. And I didn't want that. So I got to the point where I'm thinking, I want my son to live with me for as long as that is practical. Therefore, I need to do something to make that happen. Otherwise, it's going to come to a point where he's going to go into supported living and I'm going to feel really bad about it. I'm going to hate myself for it, and everything else. So I think a lot, it depends on the social worker that you get and how they present direct payments to you and how they say what you can use it for. If it's presented in a way, we're going to get you some money, and you're like, and what do I do with this money? Where do I get a PA from, a personal assistant from? What do I do? Because that's the first thing you're going to think. And if you're new to this, you're going to think, what is that? You know, personal assistants to me meant someone that was working in an office and had a secretary or a PA, you know. But basically that's what we've got. We're working. We are trying to do the best we can. But the only way we can do that is with a PA, is with a personal assistant. So I think it's got to be down to the person that does the assessment or the person that makes the decision to sell it in a way that gets rid of the stigma.
Jackie. So I know you've got some questions for me now, haven't you?
Oh gosh, I know that you've been on this road a long time and you have come across so many different barriers. And I'd like to know some of the barriers you've come across
So I think, yeah.
on this road.
So I think there's multiple barriers that I've experienced. So one really resonates with me around there was like a real reluctance and fear to ask for help in the first time because of the assumptions that might be made about me. Often that help being offered wasn't culturally nuanced or culturally appropriate. And there was a lot of loneliness and isolation coming from being supported by people that didn't look and sound like me or didn't understand my needs. And I come from a family where we were told that you have to be stronger, you have to make sure that you work twice as hard, don't
Yes.
ask for help, etc. So when I had social workers coming to me, and I remember this one particular David, the social worker who came to me after, I would say probably maybe 3 or 4 failed packages of care, which were through traditional providers that just couldn't meet my needs, coming to me and telling me back to parents that I don't want that. What do I want a direct payment for? I can't manage the money. It's not going to meet my needs. And because I only had a really negative impression of care and support as well, because what I had had before was people just turning up to help with washing and dressing or medication, nothing about living fulfilled, happy, or as some of our colleagues would say, glorious, ordinary lives. And there certainly wasn't anything about making sense of me as a person with my own unique needs and that of my family, etc. And you know me, like I love to chat, but I also like quiet PAs. So there's a combination that is quite interesting. So I would say be bold, be courageous, help people see what they can't see for themselves at time. Don't take no for an answer because it can really be a shortcut to really good lives. And one, I think, more so for me, like traditional arranged support didn't work because it didn't meet my needs. So it was a waste of money and time, and it was a waste of opportunity to make a difference. Yeah, so the barriers are countless, but the opportunities are more. And I think we need to just really understand that these can be really beneficial for people like us.
I think what you said is perfect. It's the fact that nobody's supposed to take no. If there's a need, there's a need. And taking no shouldn't be the solution. It should be, or shouldn't be the answer, I should say. There needs to be a solution. And I think that way, by having that solution, you work together. And if it means working together with a social worker and they come round every week and talk to you about, well, you know what? Someone could do that for you. Someone could do your ironing for you. Why are you trying to do your ironing when your back is hurting? And it's conversations like that. But you really need a sympathetic social worker to help you through it.
Whoever it is, a social worker, an OT, a care manager, a commissioner, I think if you really understand that we don't all have the same needs, so a one size fits all approach is not going to work for somebody like me. But actually, if you really think about what could work through my own lived experiences and the lens of a racialized individual, then I think, can support people to reorganize, re-establish some sort of autonomy in their lives. And I think it's really beneficial. but I mean, just don't take my word from it. The I think the test of all of this in my life has been from someone that bounced around mental health services to now someone that's got a job and all that kind of stuff. It really stems from having really good support that was culturally competent and having people around me that could support me in a way that made sense to me. And we had this conversation and we came up with some suggested areas that people should include in their learning and practice. So could we have the slides up? Is that okay, Joe? So Jackie, you're going to talk us through these slides about what's important for the global majority.
Okay. I know you can all read this, but I'm going to read it out so you can really take it in, not just read it, but take it in and understand it. I feel respected because they honor my hair, my skin, my food, my family, my dress, my culture, and tradition in everyday care. Now, what people don't realize is that, or what most people don't realize, I should say, is the amount of moisturizing that we put on our skin to keep our skin from being dry and flaky. We cook our food with a lot of seasoning and a lot of flavoring. And the way we dress, we might not want to wear, certain things. We might want to dress in our cultural outfits. Next. I feel safe. And the reason I feel safe is because the PA I have got can advocate for me. They can step in when situations are harmful, when people are racist, and knowing how to stop them. They will jump in and say, whoa, that's out of order. And even a simple comment like, is there a problem? Somebody walking in and turning around and say, is there a problem, to the person that's being racist, puts them off. So I feel quite safe. Yeah, next. I feel supported because they understand the stress of being racialized in a mostly white world and help me to be the best in all spaces. Oh gosh, this is so, so, so true of where I'm living at the moment. I live where, well, when I came here in 2006, I was one of probably half a dozen black people. And of that half a dozen, majority of them were my family. So when I first moved here and I'm walking down the street and people are looking at me and staring at me, and I'm like thinking, what are they doing? And they're like, you felt as if they're following you around, and you know, it it's just weird. It's just unbelievable how you feel because you feel as if you're in an alien world. And you shouldn't feel that way just because you've traveled 10 miles down the road. But with my PA, I feel supported. Again, they will turn around and says, come on, let's do such and such, and off we go. Next. I feel accepted because they approach care in a relational, connected way that is rooted in family and community and our long history of collective care, not just transactional support. You know, a lot of PAs or paid carers will come in and they know they've got to do X, Y, and Z, and they do it and they've gone. When you get direct payments, you can choose your PAs, and you can also sack them if they don't meet your needs. And it's great when you get a PA that turn around and say, how's your son doing? How's this what's your family doing at the moment? What are you doing? Oh gosh. Oh, I'd love to come along. And then you're like, okay, yeah, why not? Come along and join us. It's absolutely brilliant. Next slide, please. I feel confident and seen because seeing myself reflected in my support helps me feel valued, respected, and we connect. I have never laughed so much like I have done on several trips to other parts of the country. The fact that my PA has walked into a puddle, the biggest puddle you can think of, that I managed to go around, but she walked into it, just had us in stitches. And, and it's a sort of thing that you see when you've got someone that you can relate to and you can understand their culture just like they understand yours. It is fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Next one. I feel comfortable. Or, when you get that cozy cardigan, which is what I've got on now, a real comfortable cardigan. Because you can share things. You are having a conversation with them that you can tell them a lot of things that you wouldn't tell anybody else. And your comfortable cardigan, you just want to curl up with. And that is how I feel about my PAs. I feel that I can be open with them. I can tell them anything. And they listen. And they listen. They don't judge me. They listen. And I think that's it. Or is there one more?
That's it.
That's it. Thank you.
So thanks, Jackie. And just to say, like, those examples, and in the chat I've clocked there's some questions. We'll come back to those questions. When I talked about support not meeting my needs, what I really meant was some of the things that I was made to feel unsafe. A lot of the support that I received was very transactional. People would come in for an hour, they'd be at the door in probably half an hour. It really wasn't meeting my needs, but we'll come to that. So I wanted to bring our colleague in from Greenwich, who is a global majority individual working in direct payments. What she does, and she's an amazing person. It's great that you could be here. So could you tell us about how you approach kind of ensuring that global majority people in Greenwich have the best possible support around getting a direct payment?
Yes. I think this is ongoing work in general, and we don't always get it right. But at Greenwich, I'm proud to say that we have sort of, when looking at the national averages, we have more people from a global majority background than a lot of other boroughs. But I think these issues have to be faced head on, if I'm very honest. And we have to look at the barriers and to why we're not having the numbers from the global majority that there should be, because we can see the benefits and how direct payments and self-directed support can support people from the global majority. So I think, to be honest, when we look at our priorities, they're always co-produced since we've worked with TLAP. So that's where we look first to our actual residents. What's missing? What's going on within the community? So one of our priorities would always be to reduce inequality and to promote the culturally responsive care. So what I found is we need to look at it structurally. So from the social workers to assessment officers, when they're going to visit sometimes for the people from a global majority background, they can cope, they can manage, you can get those on. So you really need to make sure that the social work teams and the assessment officers that are actually going out to do the visits are aware of those things, to say that, looking at people from different cultures, they may not accept the help as quickly as others. So we need to look at those areas especially. So for me, looking at the benefits for people from a global majority background is the greater choice and control. So whether it's cultural, whether it's a religious background, and whether it's the family needs, and then looking at how do we reach the people in their communities. And for me, it's actually getting within the community, going out to different projects and meeting those people in those spaces, because people may not always read on the internet or know what direct payments are. So for me and my team, it's about getting out there within the community, and spreading the word about self-directed support and how much it can help, and making sure that we're very much accessible to people. So if there's a language barrier, and we don't see them as barriers, but whether there's a language there where people need to be able to have a documentation printed out in different languages, we offer all of those services. And I'm very blessed to have a very diverse team. So even within my own team that we work within, we have around 7 languages that people speak there as well. And then I think as well, it's the cultural needs and understanding that people from different backgrounds need support in a different way. It's not about one set way of working. So it's about being very flexible to meet different people's needs. And for us as a team as well, to just keep on learning and keep on listening. That's what I found can be really helpful.
Thank you. So I just wanted to reflect a little bit around my own experiences. So when I started to access support, I think there was a lot of assumptions made, and I think it's fair to say that one of the things is there was a lack of understanding of the importance of communication. There was a lack of cultural awareness. So there was a lot of talk about persons, but people didn't really understand what cultural competency meant. So it's how do you understand someone's beliefs, traditions, family roles, how they view health and care in the first instance. I think there were lots around unconscious bias and stereotypes. So there was assumptions that I wouldn't be able to manage. There were certainly lots around class, race, ableism, gender, and the intersect of all of those experience. There was certainly definitely a power imbalance. So all of the people that made decisions were white people that I had never met, and they came and spoke a language that just didn't really resonate with me. And then they wondered why I threw them out of my house, because I felt the power imbalance. But how do we do some of this if we don't? I think there is institutional racism and discrimination that comes with our institutions, and we actively need to think about how we move beyond that. And that isn't immune in any health and care system or social care. There was lots of time pressures. So the easiest choice was to choose the existing support that was available, that would often be organisations that didn't really understand me, my needs. I think there was a lack of diversity, which was interesting because I live in London. So a lack of diversity in the care sector when you live in London seems really bonkers, but actually what they were choosing was organisations that they'd commissioned, organisations that weren't as diverse. And having that choice was really important to me. There was poor access to advocacy was another one. So often decisions were made based on some of the things that I've talked about, and they didn't really think about the bigger picture or how it made sense in terms of a family context. I think there was also a one-size-fits-all policy and approach, and there was much more of a mistrust around someone with mental health challenges, a racialized person, in my experience, than there were to some of my peers. And that just really got my back up. So I felt like I was always in an adversarial relationship rather than one that was supportive. So lots to probably unpick and take on board. So Antonia and Jackie, any of that resonate with you? And yeah, your reflections.
I'm sorry, Isaac, I lost you for the last few seconds there. Can you just repeat that question? Apologies.
So often felt like I was in a very adversarial relationship, and I was wondering how we encourage much more cultural nuanced approaches, and we encourage people to move beyond being stuck. So I felt like I was really stuck because I felt I wasn't really getting people that understood me, communicated with me, had my back. And I often talk about people having my back, but I get that now because I've been able to find the right PAs and look at protector characteristics they have and really recruit like global majority of people. So any reflections?
For me, especially at Greenwich, so we support our residents through the whole recruitment process. So it's not something that's outsourced. So for me, it's really about getting to know the person and treating everybody on an individual basis. Because until you really get to know that person, it's very hard to support them to recruit. And I find as well, having real conversations with people, saying to people, it's not just about what's written down on the paper in terms of, people's qualifications or experience. What do you like in a person? This person's going to be with you a lot of the time. Do you want somebody that's bubbly? Do you want somebody that's really talkative? How can we actually, and having those conversations. But I feel unless you do actually have those real conversations and make the person feel comfortable to actually make those choices, because a lot of the time when you're going in, people are so institutionalized in terms of their care because they're so used to being dictated to 4 calls a day prescribed agency visits that you really need to kind of have those conversations. So for me, having the time to break down those conversations and actually get to know the person, build a rapport, trust is a massive one. Because unless the person you're working with trusts you to do that recruitment with them and go through that process with them, we're not going to get the outcome that we want. So for me, it's about time, which is why I believe in obviously the way we have it at Greenwich, where we have dedicated roles separate to the social workers and assessment officers, because to me they're 2 very different roles. But for me, yeah, those are the main things: getting to know the people that you're working with, so that they can feel comfortable with you to actually tell you what they actually need.
And can I ask you a question? How can those people help you co-produce? So what has happened as a result of engaging and supporting those people to have a voice?
I think what we've realised is that the best consultants that you can have are people with lived experience. To improve our services in any way, we need to hear from those people. And as a result of doing that work and getting close to the people and having a rapport and a relationship with them, people are much more inclined to come in and work with you because they trust you and they feel like, okay, if we speak with the team, we let them know where they can improve. And I love when people are very honest with us. We love to turn a complaint into a testimony and a better service, to be honest. So for me, that's a great way with co-production, especially when you grow that relationship and that rapport. People trust you and they're more willing to come in to spend their time, because it's a big thing to co-produce with people. It takes a lot of people's time and it's a lot of effort. And if nothing comes out the other end, then people see that as a waste and then you lose that trust.
Jackie, any reflections from you?
Yeah, I was just thinking back to when I started this road, and I was the only one of my colour receiving direct payments, and it felt very, very alien and everything else. But I think because I became one of these nosy people. Those people that need to push in and find out exactly how to make things work. I attended every meeting. I attended, they were calling meetings for carers. I fit that hat. I'll go to that. They were calling meetings for those with learning disability and etc. I represented my son and I went to that. And because I did that, I forced my way in. And by doing that, they then realised, hold on a minute. One, she's not someone they're going to sweep over. But 2, I can turn around and say, that does not work for me. Because I am at the table, whether they want it or not, before the word of co-production became the buzzword or familiar, whether they wanted it or not, I was at that table. I would send an email and say, I don't understand what you've written in this paperwork. I've got one now. I'm going to have to write and sort of say, I have no idea what you're on about, because it's all jargon. They forget that we are human beings and we do not work in the field that a lot of people that make decisions work. And that is something that puts a lot of people off, not just us in Global Majority, but everybody, but mainly us because it's a foreign language as far as we're concerned. The amount of times I've sat in meetings and had my phone and having to look up a word to find out what it meant, and then I decided I'm missing too much, so I just stopped them. So it's just a matter of getting yourself in a position where you can make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's really important is not to lose sight that we have a really great piece of legislation in the Care Act that gives a really clear steer to direct payments. And for me, direct payments around offering people more choice and control, being able to organise their lives in ways that make sense to them, looking beyond the individual to like family. So there's great opportunities here to get it right. And what really did shock me and Martin, and I will say this, Martin, when we came to Greenwich, we've done a lot of work around direct payments. It was so diverse and vibrant, and we really got a sense that actually it represented the communities. Now I live in a place in London where that isn't necessarily the same. It's not that we all have similar experiences around co-production or direct payments. This webinar is to really support people thinking around how do we have better experiences for the global majority around direct payments. Can I bring you in, Martin?
Yeah, it was fabulous and really striking actually, wasn't it, Isaac? When we worked with Greenwich and Greenwich, Antonia, and your team and the people you work with reached out to the community, and the diversity of people and voices in the room was fantastic. Yeah, and it made the conversation so much richer. Yeah, we've got some questions, Isaac. Could I perhaps
Absolutely.
promptly go to those? I've got a question. It's my own question, if that's all right. I don't want you to think about this, but working in the adult social care and local authorities generally, um, being a white older male, middle class older male, I guess grappling with this subject, it's it can feel uncomfortable. I've got a question around because you talked about getting the right support and personal assistance. Is it important to find a black or a person from your own culture to meet your needs, or can people really take on, really learn about and deeply understand the cultural aspects, and as you talk about, become culturally competent, and deliver that support really fantastically? Is there a sort of a hierarchy for yourselves, or
Yeah. So I'm going to answer with, first of all, you just demonstrated what people need to do is ask the questions. So don't be worried about getting it right or wrong. Just ask the
yeah,
question, because for some people it might be they want someone that looks like them. But for other people, it might be they want someone that is prepared to be culturally nuanced in their approach or response
yeah,
to providing care and support. So yeah, Jackie, what about you?
Living where I'm living,
mm,
it is hard to find another black person
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that will do the care. Um, so I had to teach the people that came in to do the care what I wanted and
yeah,
how I wanted things to be done. So I've got a mixture.
yeah,
So I've got those that I know I don't have to say anything to. I'm not going to be stressed out with, I'm going to go somewhere and they're going to say to me, Jackie, your skin is really dry. Get some cream on that.
yeah,
Where I've got the others that will say, oh, what's wrong with your skin? It's changed colour.
mm, mm, yeah,
You know, so it's a matter of you've got, it depends on where you live. But if
yeah,
I have a choice, I will choose another person that looks like me.
yeah,
And if not looking like me, but of another culture,
Interesting. Yeah.
Because they have some similarities.
Yeah. That understanding maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, we've got lots of questions, and there are quite a number around finding PAs, around getting the right PA. Go
So I
on.
can
Sorry,
answer
Isaac.
this. So I think local authorities are really traditional in their approach, but a lot of us use faith spaces or places that we might meet for our cultural needs, and they're the best places. So I've found people in my church space. I found people in the Afro-Caribbean center. So I think that the spaces that people like us go to also are spaces that we can recruit from, and we're not. I've used Facebook, I've used everything. So I would be bold. And our colleague Kate Sibthorpe, who often goes to Kingdom Hall to recruit, which is
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witnesses,
Yeah.
she says that that's a place that she's found really good PAs because they're really caring, and faith and care go hand in hand. So I think we need to maximize the spaces that we can find PAs. And it's not going to be a directory for me that does it. It's that very
No.
personal. Jackie.
I have to agree. Directory will not work. It's very black and white. You can't do anything with anybody because you don't know what their character's like. But if you go into I'm already in the church, I'm already going various places. I've picked someone from that was related to another person with a disability, and I just sort of said, I know you can't do this with your brother, but can you help me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And by chance, she was not black; she was white,
Mm.
but she had the understanding that was needed for my son at the time.
Yeah.
Um, but she's now moved on. The problem is they move on so quickly.
Yeah.
You sort of get them grounded and where you want them to be, and they move on.
Yeah. Thanks,
Antonia's got the hand
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I just want to say from a local authority perspective as well, and please cut me off if I'm wrong, Jackie and Isaac. What I found especially is we need to go and make those links in the community. So we have links at the Gurdwara, at the mosque, at the local churches, the local community centres, the Caribbean Centre, lots of different spaces. So we can make sure people have a lot of choice. But also another thing I found is it's not always the people with the best qualifications. Some of the best PAs that I've seen and that my residents have come back and said, I'm working with these people amazingly. They don't necessarily have the best qualifications in terms of care, but they have the experience of working with people. And I think that's another thing as well. We need to look outside of the box, not just at qualifications, but what does the person have to offer in terms of who that person is, not just qualifications. And also another thing I found is um, in some cases, yes, people do want people that look like them, that they want to work with somebody who looks like them, who has the same cultural background. But also there is in some of the cultures, there are stigma around support, care, disabilities as well. So I do find residents that would like somebody from a different background because maybe they might have a better understanding in a cultural way of their disability and believe that they actually have that disability. Whereas so it just depends for me. But I think it's about for us as a local authority and for anybody supporting with recruitment is making sure we're out there in that community so people have lots of choice when it comes to interviewing people, not just like one person.
Always
Yes.
about choice and control, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a couple of questions from Shirley. How can you measure cultural competence within your organization, organizations who are undertaking the assessments? And how can people from the global majority find an easy, simple way to convey needs and learn the language of need in a way systems understand?
Well, I think this really stems back to the use of making it real, the use of co-production in this space. So people might not talk about cultural competency the way that I've talked about it, but what people might talk about is their needs, their support, and really understanding that from the individual's perspective and the family perspective, it will come out what people really need, and making it very simple. I think it's fair to say a lot of organizations are trying to be culturally competent, but they don't have that leadership or that direction or that guidance. Really using people lived experience, using our leaders, really being intentional in terms of this is how we're going to do it is really important. So I would say look at making it real. It's a really good steer to how we can do some of this stuff.
So absolute. And I think so. Just to let people know, those statements that you introduced today, Isaac, add some cultural competence and nuance to that whole wider sort of set of making it real statements. Is that right? Is that right? Is that what we're kind of doing today?
They're making it real, plus statements. So the core of it is a making it real statement, and it's just
Yeah.
adding in cultural nuance to it. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And I was kind of thinking about Shirley. I hope you don't mind this sort of because the gut reaction to how do you measure cultural competence? Well, let's develop a tool. I guess what I would say, I guess my reaction. I don't know what you think about this, Isaac. I'm kind of thinking about work we did in other parts of the country where you might expect people to come along to a session about that we were doing, like they did in Greenwich. So we've definitely done that work in some parts of the country where there are diverse groups of people, and they didn't turn up, or they weren't in the room, should I say? And I can't. I guess that would be my measure. Greenwich can do it in that sort of context. Other places where you might expect it, it didn't happen. So maybe just a measure of sort of
Yeah.
the maturity, I guess.
And you remember people that came to that session weren't happy people, some of them. They
No.
came to share their challenges, their opportunities, the stuff that worked, didn't work. I think the test is when you have an invitation to come and share your experience, whatever it is, good, bad, or indifferent. Antonia.
For me, especially because I've seen both sides of co-production before TLAP and after, I found in those spaces people were much more willing to speak because there was a third party organization there. They didn't feel comfortable speaking to the people that make the decisions about their support, but they felt very comfortable having people moderate the session and work with the session that speak like them. So there was no jargon.
Mm.
We set the respect level from the beginning, and then they were able to make the statements about themselves. And I feel like that's when the truth really came out, because before that, I think people were kind of just kind of pacifying issues. It wasn't. We didn't hear the truth. But when we had the third party come in and really make it real for us, because do I believe that co-production was real before? No, I don't. But now it is, and we can really stand firm in it to say, yes, we understand co-production now. In everything that we do, even down to our duty processes are co-produced. We speak to the residents about how do you want this service delivered. And I feel like having another organisation come in really, really helps with that, to make the conversation real.
Absolutely. And what I hear is people much more wanting to come and have a conversation than come just when something's going wrong, which really does speak to genuine co-production, is that relational stuff. Jackie.
I feel like we're preaching as if we're in church preaching. No, but really, it is important that people voice their opinions. If people aren't voicing their opinions, changes will not take place. And if there's an opportunity to open up a meeting and then say, okay, we want a variety of people to come from various cultures, then you need to set the example by having those cultures represented, as the main speakers or to deliver or to facilitate in some way. You can't expect people of another culture to turn up to something where they think, oh gosh, my English is not going to be so good. will I understand? And how do I ask questions? You can't
Mm.
expect them to turn up to those. They need to know that there's going to be someone there that can probably
Mm.
interpret for them. And they probably don't need it, but they
Mm.
need to know there's a comfort blanket.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
need to know that there's someone there in case.
It's making sure they feel confident, isn't
Yeah.
it,
Yeah,
to support that.
I
yeah.
suppose my reflections would be it might be easier to do some of this stuff in Greenwich because you do have that representation within the workforce. You do have a diverse community. I
Mm.
think it is more problematic when you go to places where there's less diversity, but doesn't mean it's
Mm.
less important. I think it's more
Mm.
important. And Jack, I remember us during the riots and other times having those safe spaces where we could just talk to other people like us was so important because not everyone is in a safe space. Not everyone lives in a place where diversity is abundant. We might live in places where the norm is like Jackie, it's not as diverse, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was difficult. You know, if I went anywhere, I drove. Not that I walk a lot, but I was very conscious about where I was going and the reason I was going there. I just stayed in if I had to and make do, you know. Okay, I probably want to cook rice today, but I've got no rice. Oh, well, in that case, then we'll have chips instead because I wouldn't go out. Um, but that's because of the area I live. Now, it is not like that now. It's not like that. There are more people coming, more people that look like me, that are of different cultures coming in. So things are beginning to change.
Yeah. Thanks, Jackie. We're going to probably need to wind up in a second. Just one question from Christopher Lee. Interested in how we effectively recruit within large, I think that's kind of what we've been talking about actually, large monocultural county authorities when the best assurance is face to face, but the distances are great and the global majority population is small and dispersed. That's kind of what you've been saying, actually, isn't it? The challenge
Yeah.
of that.
I mean, Antonio, you do like these road shows and these drop-in, like, tell us about some of the work you do to kind of gauge people around recruitment.
Yeah, so when we're putting out, we speak to everybody and anybody, and we put ourselves out there, and we're very much push ourselves into different spaces and meet lots of new people. And we like to put on events in those spaces. So, for example, we have one of our parents who runs a drop-in and a day centre. So instead of just having something at the council office, we go there because we know that the footfall and the people from the communities are going to be there. So we put ourselves into those spaces and we do recruitment events. We do meet and greet sessions where we have prospective employers meet with prospective employees. Within Greenwich, we have Greenwich Local Labour and Business, and I'm sure that most local authorities have something within their area that supports with recruitment in the local community. So we tap into those sources, and when we send out the adverts, we do send them out um, everywhere. But the other thing we do is we still support people to use social media as well, because we find that obviously that's a great space. We anonymize the adverts and try to make sure people are as safe as possible. But it's about looking everywhere and anywhere and not sort of shutting off any space and say, oh no, we can't go there. That's not going to be appropriate. Or that's not going to be useful. We will look in any spaces to match the needs of our residents.
Super. One last question. We're going to have to wrap up, but we've got a question from Ben. Lovely that you're on, Ben. We have met in the past, Ben Bennett. And he's talking about clawbacks. I think it's a general question, really, Ben, about the state of play around the sort of narrative there is about clawbacks around unspent direct payments. I just wondered about asking you whether or not do you think global majority individuals are targeted unfairly in terms of clawback of direct payments or not?
I couldn't talk for all global majority individuals. What I would say that clawbacks for me are a sign that the support isn't working in the first
Yeah.
instance. And actually, if you know that people would be mistrustful and then you come and tell them to give back money when they've asked you, and in my own example, it's been social care, not being clear on what I could spend the money on. And so for me, the question is really hard to answer, but what I'd say is a symbol or sign that the support isn't working, and often that's the system putting barriers.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Can I
Jackie?
can I just add to that during COVID, that lovely period of time we had, a lot of money was not spent because we couldn't,
Yeah.
everybody was housebound. But when they came to say, why was this money not spent? My simple answer is, did you not know that COVID took place?
Yeah, yeah,
And that just left me alone then.
yeah,
Because, you know, if the money's banking up, it's banking up because of a reason. Like Isaac says, there's not enough support, or you don't know how to spend it, or something like that. But when the whole country's on shutdown, what are you supposed to do?
yeah, absolutely, Jackie. Okay, so I think we're going to have to wrap up there. It's 1 o'clock. Gosh, that's really rushed by, isn't it? So any final word? Final word, panel?
We can all create change and support many more people having direct payments and having better choice and control. Please look at the resources popped in the chat, and please get in contact if you need any support.
Fantastic. Fantastic wrap up. Thank you, everybody. It's been great that you've been able to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.